Hey, if you're on the fence about spending a serious chunk of cash on a new laptop, I totally get it. I've been there, scrolling through endless specs, wondering whether any of it will actually make my day-to-day workflow smoother or just end up as another expensive paperweight. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The HP ZBook Fury G11 is the kind of machine that promises to turn a mobile workstation into a portable powerhouse, but the real question is whether that promise translates into value for the kind of work you actually do. First off, let's talk about the kind of people who end up buying a ZBook. If you're a professional who lives and breathes CAD, 3D rendering, video editing, or complex data simulations, you already know that a lagging CPU or a cramped SSD will literally hold your projects hostage. The Fury's 13th Gen Intel Core i9-13950HX packs 24 cores, and paired with 64 GB of DDR5 RAM, it's built for those workloads that keep other laptops stuck at 20% CPU. In practice, I've seen engineers open a 2 GB simulation model, run a full solve, and get results in half the time it would take on a high-end consumer laptop. That speed isn't just a brag-off, it means you can meet tight client deadlines without pulling all-nighters. Now, if your daily grind is more about email, web research, and occasional PowerPoint decks, the Fury is probably overkill. You'll be paying a premium for raw horsepower you'll never tap, and the extra weight and size start to feel like a burden. The 16-inch 3840-2400 display is gorgeous, with enough real estate to line up multiple tool palettes side by side, but that same screen adds a few ounces and makes the laptop sit a bit higher on a lap. For a freelance writer or a remote worker who values ultra-light portability, a fine and light Ultrabook would make more sense. Let's walk through a typical day in the life of someone who actually uses this machine for its intended purpose. Imagine you're a VFX artist on a freelance project that requires you to composite 8K footage in real time. You fire up Adobe After Effects, load a 2-hour sequence, and start applying motion graphics. With the Fury's 2TB NVMe SSD, loading that footage takes seconds rather than minutes. The sheer bandwidth of the drive means you can scrub through the timeline without those dreaded pauses that make you waste precious creative energy. When you finally render out the final file, the i9's extra cores distribute the workload efficiently, shaving off 3040% of the render time compared to a typical 6-core laptop. On the flip side, that same workflow can expose a hidden trade-off: heat. The Fury's performance envelope means the chassis runs warm under sustained load, and while HP has equipped it with a robust cooling system, you'll notice the fan kicking up at higher RPMs after about 2030 minutes of heavy processing. In a quiet office that's fine, but if you're editing in a shared co-working space, the fan noise can become a minor distraction. It's not a showstopper, but it's something to be aware of if your environment is noise sensitive. Another practical consideration is the port selection. The ZBook Fury doesn't skimp. There are multiple Thunderbolt 4 ports, a full-size HDMI 2.1, a mini DisplayPort, Ethernet, and even a full-sized SD card reader. For a field engineer who needs to hook up a 4K external monitor, capture video from a DSLR, and tether a wired network, the connectivity is a lifesaver. I've seen users bring a single cable to a client site, plug the laptop into the monitor, connect to the client's network, and be ready to dive straight into a CAD review without hunting for adapters. That kind of flexibility adds tangible value that spec sheets rarely capture. Battery life is another real-world metric that matters. The Fury houses a 99 Wh battery, which is sizable for a workstation, but you can't expect it to last a full 8-hour workday on a single charge when you're pushing the i9 to its limits. In my testing, a typical mixed-use scenario: some heavy rendering, some light browsing dropped the charge to about 30% after 4 hours. If you need to be truly mobile, you'll want to factor in a spare charger or a power bank that can handle the laptop's power draw. Software licensing is also baked into the conversation. The machine ships with Windows 11 Pro and vPro technology, which is a big plus for IT departments that manage devices remotely. The vPro module lets a system administrator push updates, secure the device, and even troubleshoot it over the network without the user needing to be present. For freelancers, that might be overkill, but for a small studio or a corporate design team, that remote manageability can shave hours of IT overhead each month. Now, let's talk price versus actual value. The Fury sits in the high-end bracket, often crossing the $3,000 mark depending on configuration. You're paying not just for the raw specs but for the certification that HP gives to ensure drivers for professional software like Autodesk, SolidWorks, and Adobe are tested and supported. That certification can